What's up guys, it's Coaster Thrills here, and for today's coaster review, I'll be reviewing Rampage, the CCI wooden coaster located at Alabama Adventure. This is a park that has been opened and closed multiple times in the last 22 years, but this was an opening day coaster, it being retracted actually in 2015. That made it a much better ride, way smoother than it used to be, and of course, this coaster is the park's star attraction. This is definitely a coaster that does not get talked about that much at all. Similar to others, it should be recognized way more because it is a great wooden coaster. So that's what I'll be doing in today's video, my full in-depth review on Rampage. But most importantly, before we start, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more videos on coasters often. Also, if you want to see more, make sure to follow our social media pages for updates and much more. But now that is out of the way, let's get started, as the first thing I want to talk about is how this coaster really is just a hidden gem. Of course, the main thing I'm trying to say from this is that it's just really hidden in the trees. Other than that, than the drop, you can't see most of the back part of the ride. Fortunately, I was able to get a behind-the-scenes tour, so some of the footage you are seeing here was from the back, as there is definitely a better view of the best parts of the ride. This coaster was really just a mixture of laterals and some airtime, as it's basically, your standard CCI, but, a little better than you may think. The back seat is for sure the superior row, especially in the second half. You are, getting thrown around like a rag doll, which you don't really see at wooden coasters that often. Don't get me wrong, the front is still fun. I would say it's smoother, but definitely, less out of control, as getting to the smoothness is actually not that bad. Like I said, the back is not as smooth as the front, but that really makes the ride better and more out of control. Once again, in the second half, it is fantastic. It is wild, packed with laterals and sudden ejector pops that I will of course get to later when I go through the whole coaster. Me actually not ranking my top 10 wooden coasters, I could see this making it, and let me tell you, I have ridden some good ones. Basically, all the ones in the US, other than, let's say Tremors and Timber Terror. I got a pretty big amount of rides on this thing, 3 in the front, 2 in the middle rows, and of course my favorite seat, 3 rides in the back. So I did get a good feel for the ride, even though I feel like I could have ridden it longer just because there was absolutely no weight of this thing. So really, throughout the whole day, I never the whole day had 2 groups in front of me, which just tells you that the Alabama Splash Adventure does not get as much people in the dry park compared to the water park, though when I went there, it was packed. So as you walk up to this thing, while you can barely see it from the pathway, at least, near the entrance, you cannot spot this thing from any spot, outside the park. It actually does look bigger once you get to the entrance. That drop especially is pretty big. Not gonna lie, this coaster is 120 feet tall. That, for being a CCI, looks very tall. This coaster's name and theme was actually very cool. Mainly the name that really defines how this coaster is just basically a rampage of a coaster. But there is not any theming, and other than, maybe some chains holding up the sign. That's about it. As you enter the station, you are greeted with these red PTC trains that all of the CCIs have. That you don't really notice them, but they are comfortable. The one problem is that if you give yourself a lot of room, it can come down and staple you. So I just recommend keeping the restraint up the whole ride with your leg, keeping the pressure on it so you don't get stapled. But as you sit in the back, you leave at that station, take a dip down and into that classic CCI lift hill going up it, as once you get to the top, there are some great views of the whole park itself from a very high view, with at the drop some very nice looking flags. And then is that drop that, for being that big, it should be much better, as it is very shallow at the bottom and not that steep at all. There's only a sudden pop of airtime in the back. It's kind of hard to explain, as it is a very weird wooden coaster drop for some reason, especially at the bottom. If you see with other CCIs turning while not banking, it does ride fun with some laterals, I would say, as you'll come up into that first airtime hill that does not really have that much airtime. If there is any, it is floater. You come into that second hill. This one is where you twist down to your left into definitely the tamest part of the ride. That is this very not steep airtime hill that delivers no airtime at all. But here is this very wacky element, delivering the most sudden moment of laterals on this whole coaster. It does not look that extreme in the POV, but if you're sitting in the front, you were jolted on your ride. Though it's not the best laterals on the ride, it is very good as you'll kind of meander around into a drop back down into by far the roughest part of the ride, which is really weird. It's like there's a little rough part of track, which is odd knowing that they retracted it 5 years ago. It feels like it is as old when it first opened. You have another mediocre airtime hill where you will turn around once again, and this coaster definitely has a long duration, mainly for all these turnarounds. Definitely makes a great, almost terrain-based layout. But next is where the second half starts, which just makes this coaster super good, but you gotta ride it in the back for these great moments, as to start off is the best airtime moment on the whole coaster. You are absolutely jolted out of your seat. It really is just crazy, as the third best airtime hill in the ride is the next one. It's more of a normal airtime hill, but it's not the best, but it still is great. But the best part of the whole coaster is the next and final elements, as to start off, you are hit with so many laterals, especially in the back. It is super intense. As you come to the end of this section in the back right, after those crazy laterals, it is a sudden and insane ejector moment as you fly out of your seat so suddenly. You will take a turn up into the brake run, which you may think that that's the end of the ride, but just another cool feature is that right before this station, because the brake run is elevated, you take a dip down into the brakes. As you just listened through this whole review and the whole layout, the whole coaster is just a second half ride, as the first half is very mediocre. The only solid element is the drop. So I just wanted to mention that before my final score, which I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10. Once again, this coaster is very fun, a great star attraction for the Park Alabama Adventure is. So what do you think of Rampage? Make sure to post that in the comments below. I read every comment. Love you guys have to say. And of course, make sure to subscribe for more videos on coasters often. And see ya.